Hi everybody, Melissa with TKO The Kindness Objective. Last night I had a wow moment. I jumped on Randy's Ringside with Randy Gordon. If you're not familiar, he's usually referred to as the commish, and he's done a lot of really great things. He's been in the profession of boxing for 40 years. Randy actually used to be the chairman of the New York State Athletic Commission. And he has spent 40 years in the profession of boxing in a number of different roles, as a journalist, as a commentator for ESPN, as an editor for some of the biggest boxing magazines out there. He is just an all-around stand-up guy. And for TKO to have his support is just so incredible, and it just makes me so proud. Well, last night I jumped on his live, Randy's Ringside, and he shared a story that truly just left me at a loss for words, and I wanted to share that with you. This is Randy Gordon.
We got Melissa Lynn. Okay, cool. Alan's daughter here. Looking forward to meeting you. Let me tell everybody, my buddy Alan Scotto. Alan is a longtime friend of me, gentleman Jerry Cooney. You see his daughter here. She's going to be coming on this show, and she's going to be coming on my Sirius XM show, because she is spearheading a drive for something that I'm just so, it's embedded in me. You've heard the term bullying. And you can be bullied on the job. You could be bullied in the streets, in your school, wherever. And Melissa is putting together this company, and Melissa will speak about when you can come on, and I want to get it all straight, because count me in as part of what you're doing. She is out there working with a lot of fighters. We're going to get more fighters for you to talk about anti-bullying programs. And I'm going to tell you something, Melissa and everybody, that this bothered me for years. When I was in high school, me and most of the class bullied. We teased a kid because he was, in every sense of the term, the class nerd. The big oversized school bag. And you had 3 minutes when the bell rang to go from class to class. But sometimes your class was next door, it was down the hall, it was out the door, down the steps, and around the corner. You could make it in 30 seconds, forget 3 minutes. But this kid would wait for the bell, dart out the door, and then just had to get to his next class. And I mean, everything he did, he was just your ultimate nerd. And many of the guys, including myself, would stand in the doorway and we'd slow his escape from the class. At lunchtime, many guys would just kind of take the straw and blow it at him. Nothing serious, we never hurt him, but we teased him, we hurt his feelings. And sometimes that's worse than a physical hurt. And it was, we never asked him to any, hey, well, big game tonight, you want to come with us? And we never stopped to think, what would we have done? How would we have felt if it was us? And when 10 years rolled around and I was putting together my first high school reunion, I called him up and I said, hey, we're having a 10th reunion. Would you like to come? I didn't even remember that we did those things to him. And he said, are you crazy? Me come to a 10th reunion after what you and everybody else did to me? I didn't even remember. This is 10 years later. I said, refresh me. And he did. Talked about the bullying he went through. And it brought it back to me. Because by that time, 10 years later, I was already heavily into anti-bullying. And of course, he didn't come to the reunion. And when we had a 20th reunion, I called him up again. And when I called him, I said, we're having a 20th reunion. And this is about 6 months before the reunion. He said, are you brain dead? I told you 10 years ago, I never want to see you guys again. I tried again for the 35th. And he said, I can't believe you're still trying. And he turned me down again. So I didn't even bother on the 50th. But another classmate had run into him. And the classmate knew of my anguish and how sorry I was. And the guy said, you know what? You tell Randy to write me an email. It took me a year to write the email because every time I wrote it, I read it and I pressed delete. I just couldn't find the words to apologize to him. Finally, I wrote about a 4-page apology letter, and it came from here. I had tears running down my face as I wrote this apology letter, and then days later, I got an email back. It took me 2 days to open up the email. I was afraid to open it. And he started off by ripping into me and everybody else in the class. And I understood it then, and I understand it now. Even though 10 years later, I didn't even remember it, he did. We left him with scars on his psyche, in his memory. But it took my incredible apology, and I basically fell to my knees to beg his forgiveness. And I told him how I work in anti-bullying programs, that I am so against the person that I was to him. And I know I apologize for everybody who did the same thing, which was many members of my class. And in his letter, after explaining to me how he would go home and cry, he then said, but I read your letter, and I read it again, and I read it again, and I really feel that you mean what you say. I accept your apology, and yes, I would like to be your friend. I will not tell you this guy's name, but if you Googled his name, he has become a scientist of the highest order. Basically, world famous. And we write back and forth to each other. Tell me about your family. And we go back and forth. I tell him about my family. Then he replies to that and then sends me about his family. He said, if you're ever in town, you let me know. I'll pick you up at the airport. And I said, likewise, I will pick you up at the airport. You can stay at my house. We haven't seen each other, but we've spoken plenty. We are friends. And Melissa, I know that your anti-bullying program is something that is just so needed in this country. And what's incredible is, I think this country really needs it because we are so incredibly divided. But I know this, if more and more elementary school students and high school students would have the attitude that I have and have had for years, and that you have, and are so willing to pour yourself into this, I think if we all listen, we can impart it. Many of us watching here have kids of our own, grandkids, and I think maybe we haven't even thought much about bullying or being bullied. You know, maybe somebody watching out there was a victim of bullying and still has the scars. And how great it might be to hear from the person or people who did the bullying, or to be able to write to that person that you bullied and to have them accept your apology. It really is like a soul cleansing. So, Melissa, we'll be in touch. You're going to be on Randy's Ringside. And how important, hey, boxing can be. I actually train one guy now who was being bullied, a kid. And the boxing hasn't made him a tough guy where he goes around and picks on people. But the bullying has stopped because he no longer just covers up and turns his back and goes into his shell. He now has backed his bulliers down to the point where they want to be his friend. And maybe that'll never happen, but he's not going to get bullied again.
That's Randy Gordon. And he's right. There are so many people that if they just got that apology that they never got, right? How healing that would be. And also for the people who were bullies when they were younger, because we all grow up, and to know that you hurt someone in your past and to carry that weight on your shoulders and to be able to apologize and be forgiven and give the gift of apologizing so that other people can heal is huge. So we're going to start doing something new with TKO, and we're going to allow people to come on our podcast to apologize to the people that maybe they hurt at one point or another in their life, and make a public apology to that person. I think that's really important because oftentimes we get older and people move and we don't know how to reach someone. And being able to put that out there publicly and say, I'm sorry for what I did to you, it's important. Thanks for tuning in. I hope everybody has a great day.